Here are 13 tips to help you write professionally. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the big picture, which is an idiom that means like the entire view of a situation or issue. And then we're going to try to narrow it down to your actual writing. So the first tip that I have for you, the first thing that I want you to do is understand your purpose. So it's a very simple question that needs to be answered. What is the purpose of your writing? Now, in general, there are four major types of writing. It could be a narrative and you're telling a story. Maybe it's descriptive and you're trying to capture an event, or perhaps expository, you're giving facts and information, or even persuasive and you want to influence someone's opinion. Now, whatever your purpose is, you just need to have one, because without it, your writing is going to lack direction. It's like trying to understand what is your purpose for being here right now. You would like to improve your writing skills. And if you'd like to improve your overall English, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and then I can become your new English teacher. My name is Wes, and that's what Interactive English is all about. It's trying to help you reach your fluency goals. The next tip that I have for you is that you need to know your audience. Who is going to be reading your writing? Is it your boss, your teacher, your peers, your colleagues, or just the public in general? Because once you know your audience, then that's going to help you choose your style. And in a nutshell, which is another idiom, I'm giving you some idioms in this lesson, it really means in the fewest possible words. In a nutshell, when I'm talking about style, I'm really referring to formal or informal writing. So if we're talking about formal writing, you should avoid idioms, slang, just those colloquial expressions. You're also going to want to use more complex structures, which I'll get into a little bit later. With informal writing, well then the rules are relaxed. You can use some of those colloquial expressions, but because we're talking about writing professionally, I really want to focus on helping you develop your formal writing style. This is the style that you need to use if you'd like to appear professional, you want people to take you seriously. So that is the big picture. Now let's talk about your actual writing, when you put pen to the paper or even your hands to the keyboard. But before I share those tips with you, I'd like to quickly thank the sponsor of today's lesson, which is italki. And when you use italki, there is always a teacher for you. You will find qualified teachers from all over the world sharing their languages, their dialects, and their culture. And there are so many benefits to using italki. I think the absolute best thing is that, well, these are one-on-one lessons, which means you get to focus on your learning goals. So if you would like to improve your writing skills, well, then you can find a teacher who will help you do just that, because you get to stay in control of your learning. In addition, you get to learn at your own pace, you get professional feedback, not to mention you can practice for free with the italki community. There is no subscription, there is no commitment, you just pay per lesson. So click on the link below in order to sign up, find your teacher, and improve your English skills. You can also participate in the language challenge, in which you can win certifications and coupons while at the same time achieving your learning goals. All you have to do is click on that link in the description to get started. Let's get back to our lesson on writing professionally, because I have many more tips for you. And now, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about putting pen to the paper or your hands to the keyboard. So the next tip that I have for you is that you need to organize your ideas. This is so important. I don't want you just to think about this. I want you to write it down. Start with brainstorming. Use that information to develop an outline. And when I say develop an outline, I want you to develop a comprehensive outline. Don't just write down a few words, write down complete thoughts. Because when you do this, it's going to help your writing have cohesion and unity. When I say cohesion, I'm just talking about your sentences are logically ordered. Unity means that your paragraphs are centered around one idea. So when you organize your ideas and you write this down, it's going to make sure that your writing has cohesion and unity. It's very important. The next thing that I want you to do, which can be a little challenging, I'm not going to lie, and that is find your voice. And when I say find your voice, it's really referring to the words that you use, the way that you write your sentences. Think of voice like your fingerprint when it comes to writing, that maybe you forgot to write your name, but somebody reads your writing, They know that it's you because of your words, because of your sentences. Now, when I say find your voice, that means that I don't want you to think about, well, how would somebody else write this and present these ideas? Or what are the words that my audience probably wants to hear? You need to discover what is unique about the way you present the topic. Use your words, your sentences. Be authentic. People appreciate originality. And I mentioned that this can be challenging, and if you're having trouble finding your voice, I think the best thing that you can do is just to write as much as you can. And you can start by writing to me down below in the comments. But once again, if you're putting together that comprehensive outline, this is something that should start to be reflected in your outline when you're organizing your ideas. Something else that should be reflected in your outline is your tone. You need to establish a tone. And there are many examples of this. Tone could be aggressive or humorous, nostalgic, cheerful, sad. And what this really does is it shows your attitude about a topic. No matter what topic you can have different tones, but you need to be consistent. You don't want to switch between an aggressive tone to a cheerful one, humorous, back to aggressive, all right? Writing is not a roller coaster. Don't think about it like that. Think about it more like you're traveling down this straight road, moving from one idea to the next, going from one paragraph to the next. Which then takes me to my next tip, is that you need to organize your paragraphs. So I talked to you about organizing your ideas, and then you can take a closer look at those ideas and make sure that each paragraph is organized with a topic sentence, with supporting sentences, and then wrapped up with a conclusion. And this is a structure that you can follow over and over and over, especially if your purpose is you're writing something that's descriptive or persuasive or even expository. And just to emphasize how important this is, when you organize your paragraphs, it is the easiest and most effective way to convey your ideas. Something else that's going to help you move smoothly down that road of ideas is that you need to take full advantage of transition words and phrases. So these are words and phrases that will allow you to effortlessly and seamlessly move from one idea to the next. Now, there are many transition words and phrases out there. I think it's very useful vocabulary for you to learn. But just to give you an example, if I want to add information, I could use in addition. If I want to contrast different ideas, I could use however. If I want to start out and say, well, this idea is very important, I could begin with first and foremost, and then share my idea. Now, what this does is it makes it so much easier for the reader to follow along. Not to mention, it's going to help you sound more professional because you're going to sound like you know what you're talking about. My next tip is that you need to vary your sentence structures. So when I talked about formal writing, I said that you'll use more complex structures, and this is part of what I was talking about. So you have 4 different sentence structures. You have simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences, and compound complex sentences. And I've given you some examples here so you can see what the sentences are like. But when you vary your sentence structures, it's going to make your writing a lot more engaging. People are going to want to continue reading. Because if you're using too much of one structure, if you're only using simple sentences, it's just going to sound really choppy. If you're only using compound sentences, well, then it may sound a bit repetitive. When you vary your sentence structures, it's going to create a nice rhythm and flow to your writing. And this is probably something that you're not going to be able to do the first time. It's likely something that you can do and develop when you proofread. You may go through and find a couple of simple sentences that you can turn into a compound sentence. Or maybe you'll add a dependent clause and create a complex sentence. And then you'll be developing that rhythm and flow as well as finding your voice. And this leads me into my next tip, which is to keep it simple, especially at first. Use the vocabulary that you already know. If you're writing a rough draft, don't stop and analyze everything. Use your outline, keep it simple, find your voice, And then when you're done, you can go back and proofread it and really fine-tune some of those words and sentences. And proofreading is what I want to talk to you about next, because I want you to effectively correct your own mistakes. So when you're writing, I think many of you are going to use a computer, and you need to use those programs to your advantage, because if you're using something like Word, it will tell you if something is misspelled or perhaps there's a problem with the grammar. Use these programs to your advantage. Now, if you're just going through and proofreading on your own, what I would suggest you do is look for one mistake at a time. Don't try to look for all the problems at once. So you could start with punctuation. Read through your writing and only look for punctuation mistakes. And then go through it again and only look for spelling mistakes. Go through it again and only look for word choice and maybe change some of those words. So what you end up doing is that you proofread your writing multiple times. And the more you do this, the more you go through it, you're likely to find some mistakes. You'll make some changes to make your writing better. Another tip that I have for you is to get others to look at your writing. It's always good to have a second set of eyes, because people may find spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes that you did not see before. It's also good to get feedback in regard to the content. But one thing I would tell you is that remember, just because somebody gives you feedback about the content, that doesn't mean that you have to accept it. You can take it into consideration and then decide whether or not you would like to make the changes, because remember, it's your writing, it's your voice. And then I think it is very helpful for you to maintain healthy writing habits. And there are two things that I think you should be doing a little bit each and every day. First, I think you should read regularly. This is going to help you distinguish between different writing styles. You'll get a feel for how someone else's writing is organized. You'll also be able to see how people use transition words and phrases, as well as varying their sentences, and how that makes their writing more engaging. I also want you to write regularly. And this is something you can do writing in a journal each and every day, or, like I said, you can write to me down below in those comments. It's going to help you develop and find your voice. You'll also be able to explore different purposes in writing, as well as writing to different audiences. In addition, you'll be able to practice correcting your own writing. So I hope you found these tips useful and that you can now go out there and try to write professionally. If you enjoyed the lesson, please hit that like button. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. So long.